really, when we talk about raising godly kids and flourishing in any relationship, not just with your children, like listening, being able to listen and being able to be heard, that's essential. I'm excited for this episode.
Yes.
I have been looking forward to this one.
Oh, I just want to go back and listen to this one afterwards.
Wow, I see what you did there. Did you see what you did there?
Oh.
Yeah, okay.
My gosh.
A little punny.
Layers.
A little punny. We're talking about how to get your kids to listen to you.
And if you don't have kids, this could be your dog, your neighbor, your friends,
your spouse,
yeah,
your coworker.
How to be heard.
How to be heard. So that's where we're going today. And we did an episode recently. It's been one of our most popular, I think it is our most popular episode. We did 3 things that your kids need to hear from you every single day. And what it told us, like, hey, we need to lean into this idea of super practical things that your kids need to hear from you, or that you need to hear from your kids in order to flourish in that dynamic.
But if you're talking, you want to be heard. So how to get your kids to listen to you.
To listen to you. And what's our big point?
Our big point.
Well, let me just say this. I don't know if people are going to like this. What you're about to say. I'm a little concerned that they're going to hear this and be like, oh.
I feel like you like to say that before you make a point.
Well, maybe I'm hedging my bets. Maybe that's what it is.
The best way to be listened to is to be a good listener. That is hard.
It's very hard.
That is hard, especially if you came from an environment of, because I said so. It can be.
I feel like sometimes you need to say that, but it should be the exception, not the norm.
It should be the exception. And if you're needing to say that, it's a situation where immediacy is very crucial. And so you want to reserve the times you use it so that it's powerful whenever you use it. So being a good listener is an excellent way to raise good listeners.
Yeah. And I mean, I would suggest that listening is love in action. It is. Like, when you think about our world and you think about people competing for your attention, like, attention is the currency of our day. Everyone is vying for your attention. I mean, I feel like you're really locked in on me. You are giving me your full attention right now. It's kind of terrifying.
It's because I love you.
But it's a generous expression of love.
It is.
When you give someone your attention, you are drawing something out of them because you're communicating value to them that maybe they didn't know how to express before. And really, when we talk about raising godly kids and flourishing in any relationship, not just with your children, like listening, being able to listen and being able to be heard, that's essential to any relationship. So we're going to talk about 5 reasons. 5, we like 5. 5 reasons to practice listening. And these were inspired by Dr. Scott Peck's work. Okay, so if you want to go deeper, we can throw that in the show notes, but Dr. Scott Peck's work. The first one, and we were kind of alluding to this earlier, the first reason why you want to practice listening is because your willingness to listen, specifically to your kids. Like, we're going to lock in on kids right now, but this is true, spouse, anyone else. Your ability to listen is the best concrete evidence that you esteem or that you value that person.
Yeah.
We honor our children when we listen to them.
We do. And, you want to start this immediately as soon as your kids are old enough, but even as babies, giving them your full attention, not always being on your phone and also giving them your attention. That's not your full attention.
Yeah.
And kids know. They're extremely aware of when you are fragmented, when you're only giving them a portion of you. So you want to start this as soon as you have kids, giving them your full attention, and then moving up into the years. You talked in an earlier episode about moving from cop to coach to consultant. So in those cop years, there is a lot of yes, no,
a lot of instruction.
good job, so much instruction that's happening. And they need to hear you. Mm-hmm. They need to know that you are trusted. And the beauty is typically in typical development, that is innate. That is the nature of a child, to want to listen, to want to cling to their parents in that way. So part of this is treating that as sacred, really putting a bit of a bubble around that connection where there's the intentionality, there's the attention given to that. And that is how, when they move into the next stage of the coaching, when they really need your voice, because there are so many voices so loud out in the world that they need to. And
they're struggling to speak too. They're struggling to properly articulate who they are.
And when they do articulate, they do a pretty bad job of it. And you just want to punish for whatever they said.
Whatever came out of your mouth. Yeah.
In the most tense moments, which is when they have the deepest things that they need to find a space to communicate.
Which we're going to get into that later too.
We are.
Like how to navigate those moments of intensity, whether it's a toddler throwing a tantrum or it's a teenager who's having an existential crisis, who feels profoundly disoriented, and they're lashing out on you because you feel safer than anyone else.
Exactly.
I love what you're leaning into here, though. And one of the things that Dr. Peck, he talks about 5 different ways we can engage with our children's words. And I love this because there are different types of ways that we can give attention to our children. Because if you are locked in, like the way you were looking at me earlier, with that intensity all day, it would be exhausting. And so there are different forms and types.
It would be impossible.
It would be impossible.
Like very frequently, I am making dinner while the kids are talking to me, or driving in the car, or doing something, or they just start talking.
Yeah.
And I have now gotten to a place where when they seem frustrated that they have a lack of my attention, I stop and I say, hey, I was doing this.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish doing this. And then I can give you my full attention. But you do not come up and demand, I need your full attention right here, right now.
Right.
You're not going to get it. I do that with you now that I'm saying it.
And I think it's important to have awareness. When we're in these moments, it's okay to not play the record of your child's demands or your child's questions constantly. Like, we don't have the capacity to do that. But I think what we're responsible for is knowing what we're doing in those moments, or at least figuring it out, and then engaging appropriately. So 5 different ways that we can engage with their words. Number 1, we can forbid them from speaking. We can say, like, hey, it's time to be silent right now. I don't want you to say anything. Like, that is acceptable. There are times when it makes sense to do that. That's the first one. The second one is you can permit them to speak, but you don't listen. Like, this might be relevant when they're younger and they're kind of walking around the house and they're starting to find words and they're pointing different things and, saying stuff. And it's just like, okay, I hear what you're doing. I'm permitting noise, but I'm not listening. And it's okay that I'm not listening to what you're doing, right? Yeah. That's not okay, though, if we're sitting across the table from each other and I'm permitting you to talk to me and I'm just not listening to you. That's incredibly disrespectful. The third one is pretend to listen, but you're disengaged, right? So like, y'all know, like the yeah, just those little cues, like just enough to like, no, I'm hearing this conversation, but really you're completely disengaged. You're thinking about your fantasy football team. You're thinking about whatever. You're not locked into the conversation.
And what we're saying is that that's going to happen.
It is.
And it's okay.
Be aware of it, though.
Be aware of it.
And if the subject matter is something that you need to be engaged, you need to either say, hey, I'm not here right now. Like, I'm not locked in. Can we pause and have this later? Or you need to change your position and get locked in because what's being communicated is important. And the other party needs to understand that as well. And that's where trust is built and respect is shown when we have conversations like that. Like, hey, you're trying to talk about something right now that I'm not there. Mm-hmm. So rather than pretending like I'm there, And we're going to be in a worse spot at the end of this because you're going to realize I haven't been here the whole time. I'm just going to tell you.
And you're going to read into me not being here.
You're going to say, oh, you don't care, when really I'm just not in a position to have this conversation right now. I do care. I just don't know how to show you that I care in this moment the way you want me to show you that I care.
Yeah.
So that's the third. And then the fourth is selective listening, which is you just try to parrot or pay attention to the important things. So it's like, I'm here, but I'm only here when certain words come up, or maybe certain emotion is expressed behind the words. So I'll lock in if you say something that needs me to listen. I'll lock in and then I'm out. I'm disengaged. And there are times when selective listening is necessary. Maybe you're driving in the car with your kids and you're kind of paying attention, but you're not completely locked in. And then they say something and you engage and then you disengage and you're listening, but you're not entirely in the conversation. That's okay. Again, it's good to be aware of how we're listening, of what we're choosing to employ in that moment.
And I think even looking at your time with your child like a pie chart, where there are sections of time that is going to be each of these. And it brings us to the fifth and final, which is truly listening and offering your child undivided attention.
Yeah.
This must be a part of your relationship from a very young age, because it is probably impossible to start this when they're 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
And they really need this piece of the pie to be a part of their life.
I want to comfort the parents who maybe are in a season where they're navigating that. It's not impossible. It's just a lot more difficult.
A lot more difficult.
Y'all can do it. It's just going to take more time and energy than if these habits were established earlier in their lives. When you have a chance to develop those listening muscles and help them develop their listening muscles.
And you're developing a desire for it.
Yes, a curiosity.
A expectation in relationship for it as well. Because you want them to be parents who listen to their children. You want them to be people who look for a good listener in a spouse, in a life partner.
Yeah.
You want them to be someone who offers good listening. And more, the culture that we are seeing amongst adolescents, it is a rare skill to be fully engaged with life happening right here, right now.
Yeah, that's so good. And what I have found, people who are good at listening, like they're just confident people. Like normally they're some of the wisest people and they're confident. They can sit, they can hear, and then they can ask meaningful questions. They can see things about people or situations that other people can't see because they've taken the time to process it. And it goes back, I'm going to repeat it, point number one, there are 5 reasons to practice listening, is this idea of you're communicating value and esteem for that person. And the people who feel valued and esteemed, truly valued and esteemed, they're confident and they're able to value and esteem others because they're not constantly looking for that validation from everyone else every time they open their mouths. So that's the first one. And then we also cover the 5 different ways. Again, those are forbid, permit them to speak but don't listen, pretend to listen but you're disengaged, selective listening. And then the 5th was truly listening, locking in to what they're saying.
And our purpose of sharing those is not, it is for you to recognize there's many different types of listening. And throughout your whole day, you are human. You are not this intentionality robot who can just make the most of every single moment of every single day. You need to take that pressure off of yourself because it does steal from the opportunities to make the most of the moments that are meaningful.
If you engage with your life like that, it'll be impossible to be present.
It will.
Because you're always evaluating what has happened or what will happen instead of just being in the moment of what is happening now and asking yourself, what does this moment require of me?
Yeah.
What kind of listener do I need to be in this moment?
And extending value to your child.
Yeah.
Going into that second point, when you value your children, they are more inclined to say valuable things. So allowing them those times where it's so nonsensical. And this is the selective listening, but then they say something. and it's a different tone, or there's some emotion behind it, something where you're like, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
And you can get to the meat where it's not just them puttering off randomness. Or we have a child who uses the word like very frequently. And as we're listening to her, we will say, because she's at an age now where a little more training is happening, and we're like, we're going to count. Or I want you to start over with this story and don't use the word like. And then she does it and we kind of laugh about it. It's not mean.
Right.
It's more so helping her refine the art of communication.
Yeah.
Where you use like less frequently because it's, a filler word. And it's like, what are you trying to fill? Getting to the root of what's behind that. You can only do that by listening to your children. You are offering them value because, like you said at the beginning of this episode, you're giving them your attention, which is an extremely valuable commodity. And this is an important skill for us to develop with our children, not just for our children's sake, but for everyone we interact with, to offer the value of attention to those people because they are valuable.
They are. They are. And as you're talking about this, they're more inclined to say valuable things. When I think of some of our stories with kids, I think of some stories with our youngest, August. He says things sometimes. I'm just kind of like, what in the world? Like, that is so profound and stunning. I've experienced this with all of them, but if you're not paying attention, if you're not practicing either selective listening or focusing on what they're saying, you're going to miss things. And the more that they're confident in their value, like the more they're going to open up about what's really going on inside of them and move beyond just the incessant words or whatever. Like, you're frustrated, like, listen, they're talking nonsense most of the time. It's like, well, maybe they're insecure about whether they're actually going to be heard.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to fill space to put something out there that's going to stick. And so the more we listen, the more inclined they will be to say valuable things. And we've certainly seen that to be true.
And that goes into the number 3, the point that the more you listen to your children, the more you learn from them.
It's so true.
And it's such a gift.
You're so good at that.
See, I don't feel like I am.
You are, because you'll come to me and you'll say, I was having this conversation with Lizzie there. I was having this conversation with Sophie or Asher, August, and he said this thing or she said this thing. And you'll share it with me. I'm like, wow, that is so good. Like, that is so profound. And I learned from it. And I feel like that happens more from you to me, telling me about something that happened with the kids. Granted, you spend more time with them, but I feel like it's normally from you to me, which tells me you're better at listening. Because it has to happen with some form of regularity based on the number of stories and moments that you share with me and that I get invited into through you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and God speaks to me through our kids. He'll speak specific things, but other times it's this assurance of like, look, that's in them.
Yeah.
You guys have planted these seeds and that's within them. Stories that Lizzie will tell me about her on the playground where I'm blown away by her emotional intelligence, the things that she'll say to other 4th graders, just very matter of fact, like, no, I'm not going to do that. Why are you trying to manipulate me?
Yeah.
And it's so kind of the Lord when he speaks to you through your children, and you don't want to miss those opportunities.
I love that, babe.
Where, yes, you're just learning about life through their eyes. Jesus talks so much about receiving the kingdom as a child. And as parents, we have the opportunity to receive the kingdom of God through the eyes of our children if we are practicing good listening with them.
Yes, I love that.
So
Number 4.
Going on to 4, yes. The more you know and understand your child, the better you will be able to teach and instruct them.
So we probably caught their attention. Like, I need my kids to listen to me so they can do what I'm telling them to do.
Yeah.
This is the first point here now in the 5 where we're talking about you telling your kids what to do, you communicating to your kids. And again, the things that we've experienced this, I've heard this from people who are further along than we are. Your kids, it's more about them catching what you're doing, being around you, your example, what you model. It's less about them catching what you do rather than them hearing what you're telling them to do. So don't get me wrong, we do need to use words, we do need to instruct, but if we're saying one thing, we're living something different, if we're telling them to be good listeners and we're terrible at listening, they're probably not going to be good listeners.
Not just they're probably not going to. They will then potentially, I don't want to speak this over
you're saying
anyone,
this very categorically.
but they will then be jaded about a parent who led them hypocritically.
Wow.
And that's not to say you have to be perfect all of the time. Our kids will call us on stuff. And honestly, it's a part of choosing to parent the way we have chosen to parent, where they will say, hey, you said this, but then you acted that way towards dad. And I'm like, ugh, okay. I have to be aware that my actions and my words are not lining up.
Yeah.
And there again, it's like, okay, God, they're not just going to do what I say and not see the way that I'm choosing to live. It starts with the way that we choose to live. And then what we say, there's so much value added to it.
Yeah.
That's not to put pressure on you to be perfect, but you have to recognize the correlation between those two things. We have a whole generation that had parents who would say one thing and then they would live a different way, and it just doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
It creates a lack of trust of their parents, which ultimately is a lack of trust in God. And that is the purpose of this. That is the foundation of why intentional parenting through the eyes of God the Father is so crucial, because of that relationship that you're fostering, that you're representing. Mm-hmm. That's the why behind parenting well.
Mm-hmm. And the humility that we have to embrace as parents. We talk about this all the time. Humility creates safety. Mm-hmm. When you humble yourself in those moments where there is a disconnect from what you're telling them to do and what you just modeled, when you humble yourself, you create space for them to watch, okay, hey, this is what repentance, this is what it looks like to receive God's grace in moments of failure. Yeah. Like there is a path forward, but I need to own what I've done wrong. Yeah. And that's something that all of us get to learn from and through, whether we're parents or we're watching our parents navigate those moments.
All of it is an opportunity.
It is. It's all an opportunity. And that's God's redemptive nature. But we said the more you know and understand your child, the better you will be able to teach and instruct them. I want to call out a verse in Proverbs that I think is a really important verse for parents to hear. And they probably have heard this verse presented the wrong way. And I'm not, okay, let me put it like this.
Yeah, is it wrong or different?
It's not wrong, it's different, but it's not primary.
Okay.
So I think both are true, but the primary meaning of this verse is actually different than most people interpret this verse. Mm-hmm. And it's Proverbs 22, verse 6, train up a child in the way he or she should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And we've interpreted that to mean like, hey, if I tell them the right things to do, that when they're older, they're going to do those right things. And there's an element of truth to that. There's an element of truth to that. I believe that as we put those seeds in our children's heart and their lives, later seasons, it might take time for those to take shape and form. But later seasons, like they're going to come back to those teachings and they will have those as a part of their lives and a part of their story. So I agree with that to a degree. But really what this is saying, the idea of the way he should go actually refers to a child's interests, passions, and desires, or their bent. So the idea here is know your child, train them according to their bent.
Yeah.
Train them not just based on who you are and how you hear and how you see the world. Seek to understand them and train them, develop them, encourage them along the lines of their bent.
Yeah.
So maybe a child whose father is all about academics, but shows a great capacity for sports and athletics. the father's like, hey, I recognize, I want you to be in academics, have an academics emphasis, but clearly you have a sports emphasis. I'm going to meet you over there, and I'm going to train you there, and I'm going to get outside my comfort zone and lead you along that path. It's stuff like that, because that's where that person's going to be able to receive instruction, correction, discipleship in a way that's more native to their passions and the things that make them come alive and the things that matter to them. But you can't get there if you don't listen, so you know how to instruct and teach them. And that's the point here of number 4, is we want to understand them, we want to hear them, and also, y'all, we need to hear the Spirit of God, what God is saying about our children. Hear, listen, so that then when we do speak, when we use our words, we're training them and teaching them how they can be trained and how they can be taught. Like, I've had to navigate this with, especially with our oldest son, Asher, where I've tried certain things based on my bent, and I'm like, oh, wait, that doesn't work. Like, I thought he was a lot like me in this area, but he's actually not. He's different. And I have to humble myself and be like, okay, God, I need to be curious about Asher. And then there's this time of figuring it out. And it's like, okay, no, this is what is making him tick. Instead of just beating the old way into him, I need to adjust, and I need to train him according to this bent.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, but it requires patience. It requires the capacity to listen and to learn from our kids. All right.
I think it's like, parents need to be aware that their child was born into their family, to them as parents, with whatever number of siblings that they have. So this isn't a intense individualistic mindset either. Like, you have the resources you have for your child. It's not going to be the same resources as someone else or another family or someone on Instagram, recognizing that that's also a part of the sovereignty of God.
Yeah, that's good.
So
Julie.
allowing that to be a natural guide for your child's bent.
Yeah.
Because that's the reality. You know, the amount of options of school and all of the different activities and extracurriculars, you're not going to be able to do them all. You're not even going to be able to try them all, to be like, well, we'll try everything and see which one they're natural at. Trust that what comes your way, what is available within, you know, your village, if you will, whatever that looks like, is also purposeful.
I love that. All right, number 5, and then we're going to cover some stuff on tantrums, correction.
The more your child knows you value and see them, the more likely they are to listen and respect you. And I feel like we've very much covered that in, you know, putting into action the things that you say.
Yes.
So be a good listener to train up good listeners, and expect them to be good listeners. You know, you can train your kids to be slow listeners.
Talk about that. We were talking about that yesterday, and I love what you shared.
That your children, if you constantly repeat yourself when you tell them to do something, if you set a standard of, I'm going to repeat myself 3 or 4 times, and then mom gets angry, they will subconsciously keep track of how many times they have to listen to you say it before they actually need to move into action.
Yeah.
And so even reading that, I thought, okay, I need to do some retraining. I need to back up on our kids listening the very first time. And we do allow our children to like counter, but we need to break it down to like, you may counter once. And if I choose the same answer, that's it.
Yeah.
Because no one has the energy to go around and around and around with their kids all day long. And you shouldn't. That's not training them well. That's how they're going to then operate in the world as an adult. They just constantly question. It's exhausting. It's exhausting for them.
It is.
And so setting that standard of, this is my expectation of obedience. This is my expectation of you listening. And something we implemented, we heard this in a parenting class when Asher was in kindergarten. And it was this very simple tool, and I feel like we've shared it before, but we'll share it again, of what did I say? And you keep your tone almost monotone. Do not be
Snarky.
Don't be snarky.
Yeah.
There's a scripture about that. Parents, don't be snarky with your kids.
Don't provoke.
I know. What did I say?
Yeah.
You stay so monotone. You require their attention, their full attention, whatever they're doing, and have them repeat it back to you.
Yeah.
And then you move into action. And this is the training stage. It requires patience.
It does.
It requires consistency. It requires clarity.
And it keeps you from saying the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And you just say, hey, what did I say?
What did I say?
And if they genuinely forgot, then you can repeat it. If not, it's just, what did I say? And it works so well.
It drives teenagers crazy.
Teenagers do not like it, but
which
it
is
awesome. Way better than repeating what you said again and again and again.
Also, it keeps you at an even level where you are very careful of your tone, your facial expressions. What did I say? Like, you're the adult. You're not a teenager. That's something we say to one another quite frequently. We remind ourselves of
that. You don't get to be the teenager.
You're the adult. Also, they don't get to pull you down to their level, which is what one of our kids in particular likes to do.
We love you, Asher.
That's a great segue into tantrums. We wanted to share.
I'm not saying he's throwing tantrums.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. Don't want to throw shade.
He doesn't have access to YouTube anyway.
No, he doesn't.
Tantrums. We want to talk about some just very practical, how to handle public tantrums with your toddlers, small children. It's less likely with babies. Also,
our kids are 8 to 15, so we're out of the
tantrum stage. Thank you, Jesus. But we understand that this is it's intense. It makes you never want to take your child anywhere again when you experience a tantrum in an aisle of Target or the grocery store or at some kind of a public outing, a restaurant. So, how to handle a tantrum. You need to first stay calm. Whatever your child is going through, they are dysregulated. Like, their emotions are no longer within their control, which makes your calm all the more crucial. Your calm is crucial during tantrums. So you stay calm. You have to pretend like you're at home. Don't allow the people who are around you, the other adults, it's frequently older people who genuinely, they may be overstimulated themselves, or you're on an airplane and everybody's tense. You're not responsible for them.
Yeah.
They are adults. You are responsible for your child who is having a tantrum. So you need to somehow in your mind isolate from them, stay calm, and stay engaged. You get on the same eye level with your child. You speak calmly, and you don't speak. You don't threaten them. You don't try to teach them in this moment either.
To calm them, to regulate them? No.
Don't give them a screen. You can try to distract them, like if you brought a toy with you or a snack. Do look at the basics, which, backing up one step, if you have a child who's prone to tantrums, look at the times of the day when you are taking them out in public. Mm-hmm. Are you skipping a nap? Are you cutting a nap short? Are you, about to go into a nap? Clearly, nap timing is very important. Are they hungry? Are they tired? If you've been away from them for hours and then you're going and running, like you've picked them up from somewhere and you're running errands, they're going to be desperate for your attention and more likely to throw a tantrum. So do recognize that the timing of your outings is going to affect the state of your child. Okay. And you can look at this after the fact. I think debriefing tantrums with the child, but also on your own is very important. Mm-hmm. Recognizing, hey, did I set them up to win in this situation? Or did I not? And then with the child, that is the time to debrief. So in the moment is not when you want to teach them or train them. There's just no possibility of it.
They can't hear you.
They can't hear you.
Yeah.
And you don't owe the onlookers any kind of explanation of like, look, I am telling them, hey, be quiet. We're on an airplane. It's like, no, they're discombobulated. You need to stay calm.
Honestly, most of them are probably more sympathetic toward your situation than you realize. I mean, most of them have probably been there. I know in those situations, the thing that troubles me is not so much the child doing what a child's going to do at times.
It's the parent's response. And when they are sharp, when they are unkind.
And I know it's because they feel this pressure. There's this perceived pressure from the people around them, like, you better get that child under control, whatever it takes.
Stop it. Stop crying.
And so there's this intensity. And for me, I know as an onlooker, I look at this situation and I'm just thinking like, hey, is there something I can do to help? I'm not thinking, oh, hey, what in the world? Like,
they must be horrible.
What kind of parent are you? But when a parent freaks out on the child and starts throwing their own tantrum over the child's tantrum, that's when I'm like, oh gosh, what's going on here? This is dangerous. So don't feel that pressure from the people around. And listen, if they do care, frankly, their opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like if they've lost touch with that compassion or sympathy or empathy, then honestly, their opinion really isn't one that you want in the mix.
Exactly.
But I remember one time with Sophia, she threw a massive tantrum. I mean, really, this was her only one that I can remember when she was around that age. And it was ice cream. We were getting ice cream. And I just got down at her level, looked at her in the eyes, and I just told her, I'm like, we are walking out of this place and we are not getting any ice cream today. I said it very calmly. I was just like, hey, this is what we're doing. And we debriefed it. To your point, we debriefed it shortly after that. And she was more like, she felt things intensely, but then later you could process it with her and she'd understand it.
Yeah.
That was just one example that came to mind.
And so you know your child, and it might be a situation like that where you remove yourself from the situation. If you're not able to remove yourself, like an airplane, or you're in line to check out at the store, these different situations, just stay calm. Stay calm. Maybe offer, hey, we brought these toys. Do you want one of these toys? I know it can be tempting to just hand them your phone, but that is enforcing very bad habits. That when they are in an emotional state, they need to reach for a device. They need to reach for a distraction. And it's a stage. That's
not actually satisfying a real need. Like if they get food, like they're hungry and they need food. If they need to like play with a toy, like they need to engage with something that's real, tactile, like all that makes sense. But if it's, I'm going to numb myself by watching this show or playing this game, that causes me to not actually understand what I'm processing, what I'm going through. It's just going to come back at an inopportune time in the very near future.
And you don't want to be teaching your kids those coping mechanisms, like you said.
So something that we talked about, and then we'll close. But talking about correction, and three things that I want to share with our listeners when we're talking about like, hey, trying to get my kids to hear what I'm saying when I'm correcting them. Okay, so 3 words I want y'all to remember. Number 1 is calm. We've been talking about that a lot. Number 2 is clear. And number 3 is consistent.
Good.
So the first one, your kids, when we're talking about being calm, they don't get to set the tone. Take a deep breath and take your time. Like it can be on your time. I remember my parents, my dad in particular, would always send us to our room before he corrected us because he knew, my dad's severe Beveres. He knew that if he came down on us right then and there, it would be way too intense. And he needed to calm down. So he would send us to our room so we could calm down and we could calm down. And then I would just wait for his ankles to crack when he was walking, because his ankles would crack when he was walking to my room. I would be listening just waiting for his ankles to crack on his way to my room. Anyway, there's a lot there. So that's the first one, calm. Number 2, clear. Be clear about choices and consequences. Don't throw out arbitrary punishments and don't punish to control.
And if you say that you're going to punish them, you must follow through.
You have to follow through, and don't throw out punishments in the middle of them losing it, when they've like lost their sense of logic, that's not the time to throw out punishments. Otherwise, you're just going to keep having to heap on more punishments because they're not going to be able to process the fact that they're going to have consequences for doing what they're doing. Then you're going to get on the other side of the moment and be like, okay, I need to pull back a lot of these consequences. So
we've done that.
We've done that.
I've
100%.
done that
I have done that. I have done that.
I'm like, so, everything that you hold dear
is gone. Everything. It's all gone. So be calm, be clear. And I want to say this too, clarity. A part of clarity is deciding beforehand what you're going to do in those moments. So have conversations, you and your spouse, like, hey, this is what we're going to do in these moments. Like, these are the consequences that come with these decisions. If a spouse isn't in the mix and you're parenting these kids on your own, making decisions before you find yourself in the moment that don't require you to make that decision when you're in the moment.
Or if you have already found yourself in the moment and there's now a pattern developed, you are the parent.
Yeah.
You get to decide, this stops here. From now on, when you do this, the consequence is this.
Yes.
And a lot of times that is how it works.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we see a pattern. We're like, whoa. However, we're, navigating this isn't working. We need to kind of go back to the drawing board, present it to the child. When you do this, this is what will happen. Yeah. Like we had a yelling jar, a butt slapping jar. Like
we never had a butt slapping.
We definitely had a butt slapping.
We definitely did not.
You had to put $1 in. Yes, butt slapping became a thing.
If they slapped each other's butts.
Yes.
Okay. I thought you meant something else.
And it put it into it.
It did actually.
For the most part. Yeah, I mean, Addison and his brothers still slap each other's butts. And I'm like,
it's a sports thing. Okay. It's a guy thing. Number 3. Wow. Blasting me like that. It's not weird. Number 3, consistent communication. We talked about consistent.
Yeah.
See, so not saying one thing one day and something else the other day. And we also have to be aware of the fact that we're consistently communicating something by what we're not saying sometimes.
Yeah.
So wanting to be consistent with the message that we're sending our children, and you hear all 3 of these, it's intentionality. It's making decisions before you find yourself in the moment where you have to make decisions. That is the key to intentional parenting, is making decisions before you find yourself in the moment where you have to make the decision. So it's having the conversation with your spouse, figuring out what are we going to do when this moment comes. It's making decisions in prayer, making decisions when you're studying about what's best for your children, what kind of family you want to build, what kind of marriage you want to have, what kind of friend you want to be, what kind of person you want to grow into, all of that. It's making some of those decisions before you get into the moments where you make the decision.
Appropriate to your season.
Exactly.
Like, you don't need to be talking about what you're going to do when your 2-year-old wants to date. Like, make these decisions, have these conversations appropriate to your season.
You can't handle all of that.
No.
So that's a great call.
And it will distract you from what is yours right here, right now.
So you're trying to talk about how we should navigate our 2-year-old dating people because you don't want to navigate what we should do right now when our 2-year-old's throwing a tantrum.
Exactly.
That's a great call out, Jules.
Exactly.
So those are the 3: calm, clear, consistent.
Guys, and this is hard. Like, I'm exhausted just having had this conversation. Like, this parenting
We're going to go back and listen to this. No.
This parenting thing is hard, and you're going to miss it. You are going to have days where you're not consistent. You're going to have times when you're off. You're not clear. You don't follow through. Own that. Move forward.
Humble yourself in that.
Humble yourself. Use it as the opportunity for your own growth.
Yeah.
Because that is ultimately what it becomes. It's like, okay, this is an area where I need to allow the Spirit of God to lead me so that more consistency can come. Not perfection.
Progress, not perfection.
Yes.
Progress is perfection. hashtag. I'm just kidding.
We're not trying to do this parenting thing perfectly, but we are called to do it well. And that is what we hope to equip you guys with today.
And one final thing.
That was
really
thing.
Good. No, this is important. And you called this out. And we can't miss it. Our goal as parents is not to just get them to listen to us. Our goal is to train our kids to listen to the Spirit of God, the leading of God's voice, to listen to other people, because when they move outside of our home, we're not going to be that voice that is the most important voice in their life.
And you don't want to train them to listen to whoever is controlling them. That's
a whole nother
whole
episode, maybe. But we want to cultivate that ability to listen, to be sensitive to God's Spirit,
good.
to be sensitive to truth, to be sensitive to what's happening inside of them, to hear from other people, so that they can be people who speak with authority and clarity
Amen.
when those times come. Amen. Amen. Will you pray us out?
No, that was a prayer.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen.
So be it.